Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bishrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum little kids. This is Shehroz Abdullah, and now today we are going to discuss what is change in momentum and forces. Let me recall the previous work. In the previous work we have discussed different topics. We have discussed Newton laws, right? We have discussed different examples of it and all the things we have discussed in that, right? We have discussed momentum. We have discussed rate of change of momentum is equal to force. We have done with the proof of it, right? Okay, now that was previous work, right? Now we are going to discuss what is change in momentum and force. Before going further, we need to understand what is collision. Collision is that process in which two bodies come very close enough to each other and they interact with each other by means of force, like so this is what we call collision. When two bodies come closer to each other and exert a force on each other, this is collision. Okay, let's consider we have two bodies, first of mass m1, second of mass m2. Both are moving towards each other with velocities like u1 and u2 respectively. After, like, when they collide with each other, like, this is the collision state. Like during collision, after collision, what they do, both the bodies masses are same, m1 and m2, but they are moving in opposite directions with respect to velocities like v1 and v2. After collision, their velocities are changed from u1 to v1 and u2 to v2. Okay, according to law of conservation of momentum, we know that total momentum should remain conserved, or we can say that initial momentum must be equal to final momentum. So we will say that pi will be equal to pf, right? Before, initial momentum was mu1 plus mu2, while final momentum is mv1 plus mv2. Okay, by conservation of momentum, we will write that pi is equal to pf, right? So mu1 plus mu2 will be equal to mv1 plus mv2. So this is all about a change in momentum and force, right? Okay. Now, next thing we are going to discuss is change in momentum and explosive forces. Change in momentum, like, we are going to discuss the behavior of explosive forces, like what kind of change in momentum is appearing in that cases. Consider an isolated system of bullet in which we have a bullet and having mass small m, while a rifle of mass capital M. Okay, before the firing, the initial momentum was 0. Pi was 0. After the momentum, what happens? After firing the bullet, what happens? After firing the bullet moves with velocity vb in one direction, while the rifle recoils with velocity vg in opposite direction. Okay, as that the total momentum again over here in this process is 0, so we will say that momentum of bullet plus momentum of gun will be equal to 0, right? So momentum for the bullet is mvb plus momentum for the gun is capital mvg is equal to 0, right? So do remember one thing: due to large masses of the rifle, it recoils with such lower velocity compared to a bullet, right? So this was all about what? Change in momentum and explosive forces. Now we are moving towards last topic, that is rocket propulsion and thrust. In rocket propulsion, what happens? We have a cylinder over there filled with a certain gas, right? Okay, when it moves, so due to engine works over there, the gases starts moving coming from the back side, right? So this is action force. As a reaction force, what happens? The rocket moves upward, right? Okay, so which is called reaction force. Both are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. So as a result of which the rocket moves upward, right? So this was all about today's lecture. Let me summarize today's work. What we have done, we have discussed change in momentum and force, right? Okay, we have proved that before the momentum and after the before collision and after collision, the momentum was same because of law of conservation of momentum. Then we have moved towards change in momentum and explosive forces. We have discussed bullet and gun example. Then last we have discussed rocket propulsion and thrust, right? So this was all about today's lecture. Hope you have enjoyed the lecture. Thanks for watching. Allah Hafiz, fi amanillah.